Perhaps NATO is waking up, no longer able to get stuck in this conflict or provide unlimited aid to Ukraine. NATO has been Ukraine's strongest supporter throughout this war. The alliance has pledged billions in military aid, intelligence, and logistical support to help Ukraine defend itself against Russia's aggression. But here's the thing. How long can NATO continue to play this game? How long can they keep providing endless resources and assistance while facing internal pressures and growing fatigue from member countries? Perhaps NATO is finally waking up to the reality that this conflict can't go on indefinitely. As the war drags on, countries within the alliance are beginning to feel the strain. The longer the war lasts, the more resources are required, and the more domestic unrest rises over the cost of continuing to support Ukraine. NATO may have been united in its cause early on, but the cracks are beginning to show. Public opinion in some member states is growing weary of the seemingly endless financial and military support for Ukraine, especially when there seems to be no clear end in sight. It's not just about the money and the weapons, it's about the broader political implications. NATO is facing the hard truth. They can't afford to be stuck in this conflict forever. The alliance is meant to protect the security of its members, but right now, it's caught in a quagmire that threatens to weaken its unity and its overall strategic goals. The U.S., which has been the biggest contributor to NATO's efforts, is also under increasing pressure from its own citizens to reconsider its level of involvement in this war. Perhaps the question that NATO leaders are asking themselves is, how much longer can we afford to keep pouring resources into this war, especially when our own security and priorities are beginning to feel compromised? And if the conflict drags on without a decisive victory or peace agreement, will NATO's commitment to Ukraine remain steadfast, or will they be forced to reassess their involvement in a way that could shift the entire dynamic of the conflict? In the end, the question remains, how long can NATO keep up the facade of endless support when the costs, both financially and politically, are mounting? The reality may be setting in that at some point they'll need to let Ukraine fight its own battles and focus on securing their own interests. Well, the war is still ongoing, but don't worry. Today we have a new peace opportunity, a 30-day ceasefire. A wonderful chance, right? Nothing beats world leaders gathering in Kyiv to call on President Putin to stop fighting for 30 days. But don't get too excited just yet. Will Putin see these calls as a peace offering or just another joke? A quick break, no real guarantees, just a chance to catch our breath before we dive back into the chaos. How convenient. Think about it. When world leaders gather to ask Putin to stop his military operations for a month, the message seems hopeful, doesn't it? But are they truly asking for peace or just presenting a temporary solution that won't change the trajectory of this war in the long term? After all, peace talks sound nice, but can they really bring an end to a conflict that has stretched on for over a year? You can almost hear the irony. A 30-day ceasefire with everyone watching, ready to see whether Putin will take the offer seriously or if he'll just sit back and laugh at this latest diplomatic attempt. And then, of course, there's the question we all have in the back of our minds. Can a 30-day ceasefire really solve anything? Or is it just a way to buy time for a bigger plan? Let's dive in and break it down. Today in Kyiv, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer stood alongside European leaders at a press conference as they all faced the press with a unified front. He boldly declared, "Together with the US, we are calling out Putin, asking him to agree to an unconditional 30-day ceasefire." A clear message, but the timing? Does it make sense to ask for peace now when the war has been raging for so long and Putin has shown little interest in stopping it? Starmer, with his usual bravado, says this is the moment for Putin to prove he's serious about peace. But that's where the problem lies, isn't it? Starmer's speech echoed the sentiments of European leaders Macron, Merz, and Tusk, who all stood behind him, giving the appearance of solidarity and strength. "We are united," they said. "This is not just about Ukraine. It's about standing up for the future of Europe and the world order." A strong statement, no doubt. But here's the catch. Unity among Western leaders doesn't always translate into actionable results. We've seen this play out in the past, strong rhetoric, but when push comes to shove, actions speak louder than words. Keir Starmer's declaration may be noble in intent, but the reality is that these diplomatic efforts often come with strings attached. The EU, the US, and the UK can call for peace, but the real question is whether Putin will listen. And if he doesn't, what's the next step? Will the West finally go beyond sanctions and take more drastic measures? This 30-day ceasefire proposal might seem like a big ask, but is it really? It's a pause, a mere blip on the radar of a much larger geopolitical chess game. Of course, it's not just European leaders making noise. Former U.S. President Donald Trump also made his presence known, even if he's not physically in Kyiv. Keith Kellogg, Trump's special envoy to Ukraine, quickly retweeted a photo of the European leaders and President Zelensky backing the ceasefire proposal. A comprehensive ceasefire for 30 days will start the process of ending the longest war in Europe since World War II. Kellogg echoed Trump's infamous style of throwing in a bold, catchphrase-laden statement. But again, we have to wonder, what's really behind this? Is Trump genuinely concerned with peace, or is this just a calculated political move? Trump's involvement in this peace proposal isn't surprising. He's always been a master of positioning himself as the ultimate deal-maker, the one who can bring the world's conflicts to an end. By supporting this ceasefire, he could easily play the role of a global peacemaker, especially with a U.S. election looming in the near future. But what's really at stake here? Is Trump's support of the ceasefire a genuine effort to end the conflict, or is he just looking for an opportunity to regain his political footing on the global stage? Trump's political playbook is no secret. He thrives on chaos, but he also knows how to capitalize on moments of global tension. Supporting a 30-day ceasefire makes him appear diplomatic, measured, and even statesmanlike. But let's be honest, when it comes to Trump, everything is about positioning. If this ceasefire works, he'll claim victory on the world stage. If it doesn't, he can always blame the European leaders, or, better yet, blame Putin. Either way, Trump has a win-win situation. The question is, what's his real game plan? Russia's resistance and conditions. But wait, we're not done yet. Russia, as expected, isn't rolling over at the thought of a ceasefire. Dmitry Peskov, Putin's spokesperson, immediately shot down the proposal by stating that any ceasefire must come with the condition that all military aid to Ukraine stops. Now that's a tall order, isn't it? The West has been supplying Ukraine with weapons, resources, and intelligence to help them defend themselves against Russia's invasion. So what happens when one side demands that this vital support cease before even considering a ceasefire? Does that make sense? The issue with Russia's demands is simple. Ukraine's survival depends on this military support. Without it, Ukraine's ability to defend itself against Russia is severely compromised. So, can the West really accept this condition? Is this a true diplomatic effort or just another stalling tactic from the Kremlin? The West has already shown its willingness to send aid, so cutting it off seems out of the question. This is where the rubber meets the road, and right now, it's unclear whether Putin is serious about peace or if this is just another strategy to prolong the conflict. Putin's position is clear: stop the arms shipments and we'll talk. But will the West budge? Will they take a step back and allow Russia to win by pushing Ukraine into a corner? Or will they continue to hold the line and demand that Russia cease hostilities without conditions? All eyes are now on Putin. Will he abandon his military strategy and agree to the ceasefire, or will he continue the fight? This is the big question, and frankly, no one knows what's going to happen next. If Putin agrees to a 30-day ceasefire, it could pave the way for real peace talks, but that's a big if. This conflict has dragged on for so long that the idea of a ceasefire might seem almost absurd to some. But peace is still possible if both sides can agree on the terms. If Putin rejects this ceasefire, it won't be just a rejection of peace. It will be a rejection of the international community. The world is watching, and there's no way Russia can claim to be a peace-loving nation if they continue fighting despite the opportunity for peace. This is a turning point. A decision needs to be made, and soon. Putin's decision will be a defining moment for both Russia and Ukraine. If he agrees to the ceasefire, there could be hope for a lasting peace. If not, the war will likely continue to spiral out of control, causing further devastation for everyone involved. And then, of course, we have Donald Trump, always making his presence known in any global crisis. With a quick nod to the 30-day ceasefire, Trump once again presents himself as a man of peace, doing this for the good of Ukraine. But who knows what's really behind his red hat? Is he genuinely seeking peace, or is this just another move to secure his power in upcoming elections? Let's break it down. Trump knows that intervening in the Ukraine war not only boosts his influence on the global political stage, but could also help him rebuild his image as a savior. When he declares his support for a ceasefire, everyone sees him as a leader who can bring peace. But deep down, is he playing a long game for his own political campaign? Remember, peace is something Trump tends to bring up in a way that conveniently benefits him. Who could forget his past rhetoric about fair trade and making America great again? Now, he's trying out a version of making the war stop. So, could Trump's strategy be a move to solidify the idea that only he can bring stability to the world while others fail? And perhaps, if a peace deal is actually signed, who will stand to gain the most from it? That's right, Trump, the man who made the whole world pay attention, not through his policies, but through his ability to steer the ship in his own direction. With these peace talks, he can appear pragmatic on the international stage, while also regaining support from voters back home who want a strong but compassionate leader. So, behind every peace talk, there could be a long-term plan to secure power, or maybe just a setup for his run for the White House again. With decisions like these, maybe Trump is playing a game of chess, one that only he knows all the moves to. So, what do you think? Is Trump really trying to end the war for peace, or is he just creating a strategic move for the future? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest developments.